My name is Daniel Mercer. I am 31 years old. And 6 years after my own mother looked me dead in the eyes at my grandmother's kitchen table and said the words that ended us. 6 years after she chose my sister over me in front of every person we had ever known. The morning of March 3rd, 2026, my phone rang at 6:42 in the morning. It was my grandmother's attorney, and what he said in the next 4 minutes unravelled 6 years of lies in one phone call. Welcome back to Revenger Episodes. This is the channel where ordinary people share extraordinary moments of truth. If this is your first time here, drop a comment and hit subscribe. Now let us get into it. Let me take you back to where it all started. Not to the day my mother called me a failure. Earlier than that. Back to when I was 18 and my grandmother Margaret Elaine Mercer first sat me down on her porch in Clarksville, Tennessee, and told me something I did not understand until years later. "Daniel," she said, "your mother loves your sister the way a garden loves one flower. She waters it, she sings to it, she clears away every weed. But she forgets that the weeds she pulls, sometimes they're not weeds at all." I was 18. I laughed it off. She just smiled, rocked in her old chair, and handed me a glass of sweet tea. I did not know then that she was already watching, already preparing. Growing up in the Mercer house in Clarksville was a study in invisibility. My sister Ashley was 4 years older than me, blonde, cheerful, good at smiling at exactly the right moment. From the time I could remember, everything in our house operated around Ashley's needs, Ashley's schedule, Ashley's dreams. My father, Robert Mercer, worked long hours at a logistics company. He was not a cruel man. He was just absent. He chose work over conflict, and conflict in our house always meant choosing between Ashley and me. So he chose work instead. My mother, Sandra Mercer, made her choice every single day, and she made it loud. When Ashley made the honour roll in 7th grade, my mother framed the certificate and hung it in the living room. When I made the honour roll in 7th grade, she said, "About time." That certificate went in a drawer. When Ashley got into community college, my mother threw a dinner party, invited 12 neighbours, ordered a cake from the bakery on 5th Street with Ashley's name written in blue frosting. When I got into the same community college 2 years later, my mother said, "Don't expect us to pay for it. Your sister needs her tuition money." I worked 3 part-time jobs through community college. I paid my own tuition. I bought my own books. I ate peanut butter sandwiches for dinner 4 nights a week and told myself this was temporary. It was not temporary. The favouritism had a shape to it that I did not recognise until I was older. It was not random. It was organised. Every resource in our household flowed in one direction. When my father got his annual bonus in 2013, Ashley got a used car. When he got it in 2014, Ashley got a laptop for school. When he got it in 2015, I was working at a hardware store on weekends and saving for my own car, and my mother told my father the bonus should go toward Ashley's student loan interest. I bought my own car at 21, a 2007 Honda Civic with a cracked dashboard and a heater that only worked on the left side. I was proud of that car because I earned every dollar that paid for it. But the money was never really the thing that broke me. The money was just evidence of something deeper. The message underneath all of it, the one that never changed, was this: you are second, you are the backup. You are here because we had to keep you, not because we wanted to. My grandmother saw all of it. Margaret Mercer was my father's mother, not my mother's. She lived 11 miles from our house, in a white 2-storey home on Caldwell Road with a vegetable garden in the back and a wind chime collection on the front porch that made the whole yard sound like music when the breeze came through. Every Sunday growing up, we had dinner at Grandma Margaret's, and every Sunday I noticed the same thing. My grandmother paid attention to me. She asked what I was reading. She remembered the name of my history teacher from 3 weeks ago and asked how the project turned out. She noticed when I was quiet and she did not push, just sat beside me and let me be quiet until I was ready to talk. She also noticed how my mother treated me at that table, and she never said a word about it directly. But she showed me other things. When I was 16, she took me aside after Sunday dinner and walked me to her sewing room at the back of the house. She pulled a small cedar box from the top shelf of her closet, sat it on the table between us and opened it. Inside were letters, decades of them. Letters her own mother had written her during hard years, during years when other people had tried to shrink her down to nothing. "My mother saved these for me," she said. Not because the words were pretty, because the words were true. And when everyone around you is telling you a lie about who you are, the only thing that saves you is having something true to hold on to. She closed the box and put it back on the shelf. I thought about that box for years afterward without understanding why. Now I know. In January 2019, my grandmother was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. She was 74 years old and had been managing high blood pressure for a decade. But this was different. Her cardiologist in Nashville gave her a realistic picture. With treatment and careful management, she had 2 to 4 years. Without serious lifestyle changes and medication compliance, less. I was 24 years old. I had just moved to Nashville for a data entry job that paid $11 an hour. It was not impressive. It was a start. The day I found out about her diagnosis, I drove straight to Caldwell Road after work. Found her in the garden, still pulling weeds, like she did not just receive information about her own mortality. "Grandma," I said, "you should be resting." "I'll rest plenty when I'm dead," she said. "Come pull these weeds with me." We pulled weeds for 45 minutes. Then she sat back on her heels, looked at me with those calm grey eyes and said, "Daniel, I'm going to need help in the coming years. Real help. Not Sunday dinners. Real, consistent help. Your father will be too busy. Your mother," she paused. "Your mother has her priorities, I'm asking you." "I'm there," I said. "It'll cost you," she said. "Gas money, time, energy. I can't pay you." "I know," I said. She nodded once like we had closed a contract and went back to pulling weeds. For the next 3 years, I showed up. Every Saturday without fail, and most Wednesday evenings too. I drove from Nashville to Clarksville, managed her medications, took her to cardiology appointments, helped her with grocery shopping, sat with her while she watched Jeopardy every evening at 7. My mother came to Caldwell Road once a month, stayed about 40 minutes, spent most of it talking about Ashley's new apartment in Atlanta, Ashley's promotion at the marketing firm, Ashley's boyfriend who was apparently very promising. My grandmother would listen, nod politely, and then catch my eye from across the room. She never said anything about Ashley in those moments. She did not have to. Ashley visited 4 times in 3 years. Thanksgiving 2019, Christmas 2020, my grandmother's 76th birthday in 2021, Christmas 2021. Each visit was carefully photographed. Ashley posted on Instagram. Family time with my favourite woman, 73 likes. I never posted anything. I just showed up. In February 2021, during one of her Tuesday evening medication checks, my grandmother said something that stopped me cold. "Your mother called me last week," she said. "Asked me if I'd thought about putting the house in Ashley's name." I set down her pill organiser. "She asked you that while you're still alive?" "She did." My grandmother smiled, the kind of smile that was not warm. "I told her I'd already taken care of everything." That was true. I just did not tell her what I had taken care of. Exactly. "What do you mean?" I asked. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she got up, walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer beside the refrigerator, and pulled out a small bronze key on a plain ring. "First National Bank of Clarksville," she said. "Safe deposit box 214. This key belongs to you. It will continue to belong to you regardless of anything your father or mother or anyone else tells you after I am gone. You understand?" I took the key. It was lighter than I expected. "If anyone ever tells you I changed my mind," she said, "you go to that box." I put the key on my keychain that night. Drove home at 11:30, wondering what was in it. Did not sleep well. I kept that key for 2 years. Never needed it while she was alive. What I needed while she was alive was gasoline and patience, and the ability to watch my own family treat me like a stranger at Sunday dinners. In November 2022, my grandmother had a significant decline. 2 hospitalizations in 30 days. The second one lasted a week. I took unpaid leave from my job to be there. My employer was understanding. My bank account was not. During that second hospital stay, lying in the bed with a blood pressure cuff on her arm and a monitor beeping steadily beside her, my grandmother told me something. "I've had my attorney update everything," she said. "Everything is airtight now, and I have written it all down." "Written what down?" I asked. "What I know about your family," she said, "and what I want you to know about yourself." She squeezed my hand. "Daniel, you showed up," she said. "That is worth more than anyone in this family is willing to admit. Don't let them minimize that after I am gone. Don't let them rewrite it." On January 14th, 2023, At 5:40 in the morning, my grandmother died. I was in the chair beside her bed when it happened. Her last words to me, spoken 3 days earlier, when she could still speak clearly, were short. "You're not what they said you were. Remember that." The funeral was on January 19th, First Baptist Church of Clarksville. Over 200 people attended. My grandmother had lived in that town for 50 years and knew practically everyone. My mother organised the reception. She stood at the front of the fellowship hall, greeting people, accepting condolences, dabbing her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Ashley stood beside her, wore a black dress she had bought new, cried photogenically. I sat in the corner with a paper cup of coffee I did not drink. At one point I overheard my mother talking to two women from the church, Linda Pryor and Jean Stokes. Her voice was carefully lowered, but not quite low enough. "It's been so hard," she was saying, "especially managing everything with Daniel being so unreliable. He means well, I think. But he was in and out. Margaret needed consistent care and he just wasn't always there." I set my coffee cup down on the nearest table and walked out of the church. I sat in my car for 20 minutes. Then I drove to Caldwell Road. Ashley's car was already in the driveway. She had beaten me there by maybe an hour. Our grandmother had been in the ground for less than 3 hours. I drove back to Nashville and did not sleep. 2 days after the funeral, my mother called a family meeting, sitting in the living room. My parents, Ashley, Ashley's boyfriend Marcus, and me. My father looked at his hands the whole time. My mother spoke. She said that in the interest of family unity, she wanted to discuss my grandmother's estate before the formal will reading. She said my grandmother had made her wishes known privately in the final months of her life, and that she wanted to prepare everyone so there were no surprises. The house on Caldwell Road and all financial assets, approximately $90,000, were going to Ashley. I watched my mother's face when she said it. There was a slight tension around the eyes, a rehearsed quality to the delivery. "What document are you basing that on?" I asked. My mother looked mildly annoyed. "Margaret's attorney, Gerald Holt, has confirmed the will." "I'd like to see the document," I said. "You'll see it at the reading," my father said, still looking at his hands. Ashley said nothing. She looked at Marcus, he looked at the wall. 3 days later, the will reading at Gerald Holt's office on Main Street. We sat across from each other in stiff chairs. Gerald read from a document dated October 30th, 2022. "I, Margaret Elaine Mercer, being of sound mind, hereby bequeath all assets, including the property, at 1847 Caldwell Road and all financial accounts, totaling approximately $90,000 to my granddaughter, Ashley Lynn Mercer." My hands went cold. "That document is a forgery," I said, quietly. Not loud, just clear. My mother straightened. Gerald cleared his throat. "This is the certified document on file," he said. "My grandmother never used the word approximately," I said. "She knew her account balance down to the penny. And in October 2022, she could barely hold a pen. That signature looks like it was written by someone whose hands don't shake." Gerald slid the document toward me. "This was notarized by my office." "By your office?" I said. "Not by an independent notary." His eyes moved sideways for half a second. Just half a second. But I saw it. "I want the original document," I said. "Not this copy, the actual paper." "Originals are filed with probate court," Gerald said. "Then I'll request it from probate court directly," I said. "Today." My mother stood. "Daniel, this is over. Accept it and stop making a scene." I stood too, picked up my jacket and walked out. I sat in my car, thought about the key on my keychain. First National Bank of Clarksville, safe deposit box 214. I drove there immediately. The bank manager, a woman named Carol Simmons, checked my ID, confirmed I was an authorized user on the box, and walked me back to the vault. Inside the box was a manila envelope, sealed with tape, my name written on the outside in my grandmother's handwriting. I opened it standing right there, last will and testament of Margaret Elaine Mercer, dated March 12th, 2019. Notarized by Patricia Dunn, independent notary. Witnessed by Lorraine Webb and Carol Ann Pittman, both members of my grandmother's Wednesday morning Bible study group, neither of them under my mother's social influence. 3 pages, typed and clean. All assets, including the property located at 1847 Caldwell Road and all financial accounts, to my grandson, Daniel Robert Mercer. There was also a letter, 6 pages, yellow legal pad paper, blue ink. My grandmother's handwriting, neat and deliberate even at the end. I read it standing in the bank vault. Daniel, my darling, if you are reading this inside a bank vault instead of from Gerald Holt's office, then I was right. Your mother has done exactly what I feared. She went to Gerald. She always liked Gerald, always trusted him too much. I suspected he could be persuaded if the number was right. I made this will in 2019 because even then I could see the shape of what your mother was planning. She was never unkind to me directly. She was always very careful about that. But I watched how she spoke about you when she thought I wasn't listening. And I watched how she spoke about Ashley when she thought everyone was listening. I took notes. Daniel, the enclosed document is your inheritance. Fight for it. Not for the house or the money, though you have earned both. Fight for it because the truth deserves to live somewhere other than a bank vault. Don't let them make you small. I had to sit down on the floor of the bank vault because my legs stopped working properly. My grandmother had known. 4 years before she died, she had known exactly what my mother would do, and she had prepared for it, with the same quiet patience she had shown in everything else. Her whole life. I photocopied everything at the bank counter, left at 4:30 p.m, drove straight to Gerald Holt's office. Locked. Dark. I called his cell. He answered on the 4th ring. Gerald, I said, I found the real will, the 2019 document, notarized by Patricia Dunn, 2 independent witnesses. My grandmother's instructions are very clear. Silence on the line. I don't know what you think you found, he said. His voice was careful, too careful. But the will I have on file is the legitimate document. Then explain why my grandmother prepared a second one 3 years earlier, with witnesses you don't know, and hid it in a bank, I said. Explain that to me like I'm standing in front of a judge. He hung up. I sat in my car in the parking lot of his office building and felt something click into place behind my eyes. This was not an accident. This was not a mistake. This was organised fraud, and Gerald Holt was part of it, which meant my mother had planned this possibly for years. The next evening I drove to Caldwell Road, my grandmother's house, Ashley's car in the driveway, porch light on, warm yellow light through the kitchen window. I knocked. Ashley answered. She looked startled. I walked past her into the kitchen. My parents were at the table. I set the photocopied will flat on the table between the dinner plates. That is grandmother's actual will, I said. Dated 2019. Everything to me. Whatever Gerald Holt read from is forged. I want to know how much you paid him. My father did not look up from his plate. My mother said calmly, Daniel, you need to leave. I found the real will, I said. You know about it. I know about it. This is done. My father finally looked at me. You found an old piece of paper and you think it overrides a current legal document. That is not how this works. He reached into the drawer beside the sink, pulled out a folder, dropped it on the table. Inside were financial documents, bank statements, credit applications, a collections notice, all in my name. Total debt listed, $41,000. I picked up the top sheet, a credit card account from Regions Bank. I had never had an account at Regions Bank in my life. These are fabricated, I said. Prove it, my father said. Take us to court. These get filed with the county clerk the same day. The Leaf Chronicle will love this story. Local man contests grandmother's will while hiding $40,000 in unpaid debt. Who does this town believe? A family that has lived here 30 years, or a boy who couldn't hold a steady job? My mother spoke for the first time. Her voice was softer, almost kind. Almost. Daniel, please, just let this go. Ashley needs this. She has student loans, she has Marcus, they are trying to build something. You are young, you are capable, you will be fine. Don't tear this family apart over money. I looked at her for a long time. You knew, I said. You have always known. Grandmother told me what she was leaving me. She told you too, didn't she? And you planned this before she was even gone. She would not meet my eyes. I'm going to the police tomorrow, I said. I'm reporting will fraud. My father leaned back in his chair. Go ahead, he said. Those documents get filed today. I call Mike Reeves at the paper tonight. By morning, you are the story, not us. Your mother's family has advertised in that paper for 15 years, so go right ahead, Daniel. See how that works for you. I left, drove back to Nashville, sat in my car outside my apartment, and stared at the steering wheel for a long time. I could not beat them in Clarksville, not with the credibility they had built over 30 years of church attendance and Rotary Club dinners and carefully maintained friendships. I did not have $10,000 for a lawyer. I barely had $800 in my checking account. But I sat there and I thought about something. My father had just shown me his weapons. He had taken them out of the drawer and laid them on the table in front of me to scare me into walking away, which meant he was scared too. I went home and checked my credit reports, all 3 bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, clean. No new accounts, no collections, no Regions bank card. The documents my father had shown me were props, created to look real, held as a threat if I pushed back. They were never filed anywhere, they were a bluff, and I had just watched him show his hand. I called Tennessee Legal Aid the next morning. The intake attorney, a woman named Pam Torres, listened to my full story without interrupting. Can I pursue this criminally? I asked. Potentially, she said. Will fraud is a felony in Tennessee, but you need the forged document authenticated by an independent forensic expert, which costs money, and you need to demonstrate chain of custody for your copy. A civil case would require a retainer of $12,000 to $15,000 minimum. I had $840, so I can't fight this right now, I said. Not with attorneys, she said. I'm sorry. I hung up, sat at my kitchen table for 10 minutes. Then I opened a new tab on my laptop. I typed 4 words into the search bar. How to become FBI. The requirements loaded on screen. Bachelor's degree. I had one. Age 23 to 36. I was 27. US citizenship. Clean background, physical fitness test. Panel interview. Academy training in Quantico, Virginia. I scrolled to the bottom of the page. There was a line under a section called Core Values. The FBI seeks individuals of the highest character who pursue truth without bias and who have personally understood the cost of allowing injustice to go unchallenged. I read that line 3 times. I thought about Gerald Holt's eyes shifting sideways when I asked for the original document. I thought about my father's folder of fake bank statements. I thought about my mother standing in that fellowship hall, telling Linda Pryor I was unreliable, while I was the one who had taken unpaid leave to sit beside my grandmother's hospital bed. I clicked the application button at 9:17 p.m. on January 30th, 2023. I was not running away from Clarksville. I was running toward the only thing they could never forge, never fabricate, and never take from me. While I was building something in Nashville, my family was performing in Clarksville. My mother's Facebook post went up on February 1st, 2023. She did not use my name. She did not have to. She wrote, "Sometimes the people who benefit most from our love choose to repay it with betrayal. Praying for grace and healing." 206 reactions, 61 comments. Linda Pryor. "Stay strong, Sandra. Families go through such painful seasons." Jean Stokes. "I heard what happened. I am just heartbroken for you." Within 48 hours, I'd received 31 missed calls from Clarksville numbers, 22 text messages. The ones I remember most. "I can't believe you would do this to your family. Your poor sister. Margaret loved you, and this is how you honour her memory." I documented every single one, screenshots with timestamps. I started a folder on my laptop named Evidence and dated every entry. I did not know exactly when I would need it. I just knew that if the day ever came, I was going to be ready. My former co-worker from the hardware store texted, "Hey man, I heard some stuff. Just wanted to check in." I typed back, "I'm okay." Then I blocked his number, not from anger, from protection. I was not going to let their story find new mouths through mine. The FBI application process took 8 months. Background investigation ran through spring and summer of 2023. 2 agents came to my apartment building in Nashville and spoke with neighbours and my former supervisor. My supervisor at the data processing firm told me later she had described me as the most detail-oriented, ethically consistent employee she had managed in 20 years. Physical fitness test, September 14th, 2023. I passed all standards. I had been training every single morning at 5 a.m. for 4 months. Panel interview. October 22nd, 2023. FBI Memphis Field Office. 3 agents across a long table. The question I had been preparing for came in the second 20 minutes. Senior Agent Thomas Ray leaned forward and asked, "Why the FBI? What brought you here specifically?" I could have given them the brochure answer. I did not. "I watched a family use community trust and social reputation to cover up financial fraud," I said. I could not fight it because fighting it required money I did not have, and credibility they had spent decades building. I learned that in certain situations the truth is not enough on its own. It needs institutional authority standing behind it. I want to be that authority. Ray looked at me. "That is personal." "It is," I said. "What happened?" he asked. I told them. Not everything. Enough. 3 years of showing up for my grandmother while my family built a story behind my back. The forged will, the fake debt documents, the town that absorbed the lie because it came from the right mouths, the bank vault key, the letter. Agent Renee Blake, who had not spoken in 40 minutes, said, "You documented everything while you were still in the middle of it." "Yes," I said. "Why?" she asked. "Because my grandmother told me to hold on to true things," I said. I figured evidence was the truest thing I could hold. Blake wrote something down and did not look up. The interview lasted 50 minutes. I drove back to Nashville not knowing if I had passed. Ate a bowl of cereal for dinner. Went to sleep before 10. November 18th, 2023. An email appeared in my inbox at 7:22 in the morning. "Congratulations. You have been selected to attend the FBI Academy beginning January 15th, 2024. I read it 4 times. Then I called the only person I wanted to tell. Dr. James Carroll, my grandmother's cardiologist. He had given me his personal number 2 years earlier for emergencies. "Dr. Carroll," I said, "I got in. FBI accepted me." Silence. Then, "Daniel, that is extraordinary." "I wish I could tell her," I said. "She knew," he said. "Last conversation I had with Margaret, maybe a week before she passed, she said, 'Daniel's going to do something that matters. He has the same spine I have. He just has not needed it yet.'" I hung up and cried for the first time since January. Not from grief, from something else entirely. From the feeling of being seen clearly by someone who was no longer there to see it. January 15th, 2024. Quantico, Virginia. New Agent Training Class 24-01. 47 trainees. I was quiet the first week. Observed. Learned the culture. The first morning of defensive tactics, I got thrown to the mat by a trainee from Dallas who outweighed me by 60 pounds. Instructor Marcus Webb walked over and stood above me. "Mercer, what are you doing wrong?" "Trying to overpower someone twice my size," I said from the floor. "So stop," he said. "You are faster. You are smarter. Use what you actually have." I got back up. By week 6, I was top ranked in behavioural analysis. By week 10, I had the highest scores in interview technique in my class. By week 16, I ranked 9th out of 47 on the comprehensive final exam. My file note from the lead instructor: Mercer demonstrates unusual ethical clarity, exceptional attention to detail, and a level of victim empathy that suggests significant personal experience with injustice. Will be a strong asset in complex investigations. May 30th, 2024. Graduation. The auditorium was packed with families. I sat alone in my row. After the ceremony, Agent Renee Blake found me near the exit doors. "Mercer," she said. "No family here?" "No, ma'am," I said. She looked at me for a moment. "The ones who show up alone usually work the hardest," she said. Then she walked away. That night I googled Ashley Mercer, Clarksville, Tennessee. Her LinkedIn profile appeared first. Senior Marketing Associate. 3 years at the same firm. Her Facebook was public. A photo from 5 months earlier. My parents, Ashley and Marcus, standing in front of a building with a handwritten sign in the window. Mercer and More Boutique. Grand opening. My mother was grinning in the photo. My father had his arm around Ashley. Marcus was holding a bottle of champagne. Opened with my grandmother's $90,000. I was certain of it. I closed the laptop. Did not feel angry. Just thought one thing. Enjoy it while it lasts. June 2024. Assigned to the FBI Memphis Field Office. 90 miles from Clarksville. Close enough to be ironic. Far enough to stay focused. My partner was Senior Agent Patricia Holmes, 17 years in white-collar crime. Patient, methodical, excellent at making people feel comfortable until they revealed something they had not planned to reveal. She taught me the thing I carried into every case after. Documents don't lie, Mercer, she said my third week on the job. The people who create them lie, but the documents themselves, the signatures, the dates, the paper, the ink, those tell the truth if you know how to ask. I was good at asking. December 2024, promoted to full special agent. My supervisor asked which unit I wanted. I said financial crimes, specifically estate and will fraud. He looked surprised. That is a niche area. Why there? Because it is where families destroy each other using paper, I said. And the victims are almost always people with no money to fight back. He approved the transfer. In my first month in the unit, a case file caught my attention. Willard Chen, 72 years old, Chattanooga. His estate had been contested by his daughter-in-law, using a will dated 3 months before his death, despite his physician and 2 neighbours reporting that he had been cognitively impaired for 2 years before that date. The son, who had been his primary caregiver for 4 years, received nothing. I raised my hand in the briefing. Permission to review this one, sir. It is already assigned, my supervisor said. I know, I am asking to be second chair, I said. I have specific expertise in this pattern. What pattern? Caregiver erasure, I said. One family member provides years of consistent documented care. A second family member produces a late-stage will revision favouring themselves. The caregiver loses everything because they cannot afford attorneys and the opposing party has community credibility. My supervisor studied me for a moment. That sounds personal. It makes me better at the job, I said. He approved it. The Willard Chen case took 4 months. We found the forgery in the notarization record. The notary had not been physically present at the signing. Her date stamp on the document contradicted her own travel records, which placed her in Gatlinburg at the exact time of the alleged signing. Willard Chen's caregiver's son received his full inheritance in February 2026. But that was not the case that changed everything. The case that changed everything came in October 2025, when I was reviewing a stack of referrals from the Tennessee Elder Justice Initiative. I was looking for patterns across multiple counties. Elderly individuals with significant assets, late-stage will revisions contradicting earlier documented wishes, consistently targeting the family member who had provided the most care. 7 cases, different families, different counties, same attorney signature on every revised document. Gerald Holt, Clarksville, Tennessee. I sat very still for about 30 seconds. Then I pulled every single case file. Gerald had notarized 5 revised wills in 4 years, each one surfacing within months of the original beneficiary contesting the estate. Each contest had been dropped, either because the challenging party ran out of money or because their community credibility could not compete with the family backing Gerald's document. I requested a formal investigation, approved in November 2025. By February 2026, we had assembled a complete evidentiary package. Bank records showing payments from 3 separate families to Gerald's personal account. Forensic document analysis revealing that the paper stock used in 2 of the wills had not been manufactured until after the dates written on the documents. Testimony from 2 independent notaries confirming that Gerald had used their license numbers without their knowledge or consent. And a full case file on Margaret Elaine Mercer. Case number 7. I disclosed my personal conflict of interest before I touched that file. My supervisor reviewed the disclosure, looked at me across his desk and said, "This is your family." I was the victim in this case, I said. I am not asking to be primary. I am asking to submit my personal evidence into the case file. What evidence do you have? My original photocopy of the 2019 will from the bank vault, I said. My grandmother's 6-page handwritten letter, a full contemporaneous log of every family communication from January 2023 onward, with timestamps. Bank records from all 3 credit bureaus confirming no account at Regions Bank in my name, directly contradicting documents my father presented to me during a confrontation in January 2023, and 3 years of attendance records from my grandmother's cardiology office confirming weekly visits. He looked at the folder I was holding. You built this in 2023. he said. Yes, I said. While it was happening. Yes, I said. I did not have the authority to do anything with it then. I do now. He accepted the folder without another word. March 3rd, 2026, 6:42 in the morning. My phone rang. James Whitmore, the attorney assigned to the Gerald Holt investigation. Agent Mercer, he said. Gerald Holt signed a full confession last night. He is cooperating fully with prosecution. He's named your father, Robert Mercer, as the individual who approached him in February 2022 with the revised will and offered payment for expedited probate without independent verification. I sat on the edge of my bed and didn't say anything for a moment. Your father has been contacted by the Bibb County DA, Whitmore continued. Your case will be handled by the state DA only, with your testimony submitted as documentary evidence. We are keeping your professional role fully separated from your personal victim status. Understood, I said. The DA is filing formal charges against Gerald Holt today, he said. It will be public within hours. Yes, I said. The press will likely connect your name, he said. You are both a victim and an agent. They will run with that. I know, I said. Are you prepared for that? I thought about a kid at 18 sitting on a porch in Clarksville, being told he was a weed in his own mother's garden. Yes, I said. I have been prepared for a while. The story broke at 11 that morning. The main headline was Gerald Holt's multi-family fraud scheme. 7 victims, 4 counties, a decade of organised elder exploitation. But the Clarksville angle ran locally by noon. The Leaf Chronicle, the same paper my father had once threatened to weaponise against me, ran it on their digital front page. Longtime Clarksville attorney charged in multi-county will fraud scheme. Among alleged victims, local family. By 2 in the afternoon, someone had connected my name. By 3, someone posted the article in the First Baptist Church prayer group chat. I know this because Linda Pryor texted me at 3:47 p.m. She'd kept my number for 3 years. The text was 3 words. Daniel, I'm sorry. At 4:15, my father called. I did not answer. He left a voicemail. His voice was different than I remembered, smaller than I had ever heard it. Daniel, I saw the news. I know what is coming. I wanted you to hear from me before everything. He stopped. Long pause. I'm sorry. I know that does not fix anything. I'm sorry, son. I listened to it twice, saved it to the evidence folder. Not as evidence, just to have. April 14th, 2026. The formal settlement with my father was signed through the Bibb County DA's office. A sworn affidavit entered into public record. I, Robert Allen Mercer, being under oath, hereby state that in February 2022, I commissioned an attorney, Gerald Allen Holt, to produce a document purporting to be the final will and testament of my mother, Margaret Elaine Mercer. Said document was not genuine. I was aware it was not genuine at the time I presented it for probate. I paid Gerald Holt $8,000 to file this document without independent verification. I did this to redirect my mother's estate to my daughter, Ashley Lynn Mercer, and to prevent my son, Daniel Robert Mercer, who was the rightful beneficiary under my mother's genuine will, dated March 12, 2019, from receiving his inheritance. I spread false information about my son's character to discourage him from contesting the estate. I deeply regret these actions. In exchange for the affidavit, I declined to pursue criminal charges against my father directly. Gerald Holt's prosecution named him as a co-conspirator. The civil liability from the other 6 families was substantial. But I chose not to be the one filing. My grandmother's letter had said fight for the truth. She had not said make it a war. 3 weeks later, I drove to Clarksville. First Baptist Church was holding their annual community recognition service, honouring local first responders and public servants. Reverend Douglas had sent me 2 emails. He had not pressured me. He had simply said the invitation was open if I ever wanted to come. I arrived at 9:50 a.m., wearing a navy suit, sat in the back row. Aisle seat. I always know my exits. My mother was in her usual spot, 3rd row, right side. She turned and saw me when I sat down. She looked away. Her hands were clasped in her lap, very tightly. Ashley was not there. She had moved to Atlanta the previous month. The service started at 10. Reverend Douglas opened his announcements and then stopped and spoke directly to the congregation. This morning we will honour men and women who serve this community. But before we do that, I need to speak to something directly. In January of 2023, a lie was spread in this community about one of our own. That lie was believed because it came from people we trusted, and because we chose the comfort of a familiar story over the responsibility of asking questions. This congregation participated in the destruction of a young man's reputation without asking a single question. That young man spent the years since we abandoned him becoming someone whose character makes our silence look worse with every passing day. Daniel Mercer, would you please stand? I stood. 200 heads turned at once. Linda Pryor put her hand over her mouth. Jean Stokes whispered something to the woman sitting beside her. Dorothy Webb sat completely still. My mother stared at her hands in her lap. Reverend Douglas continued. Daniel spent 3 years as his grandmother's primary caregiver. He drove from Nashville every single week. He was present at every appointment, every hospital stay, every hard evening. And when his grandmother's legitimate will was suppressed by fraud, and when this community was fed a false story about his character, he did not beg us to believe him. He left. He built something undeniable. He is now a special agent with the FBI who has spent the last 2 years recovering stolen inheritances from other families who look exactly like his. Daniel, on behalf of this congregation, I am deeply sorry. I nodded once, did not smile, did not cry. He invited me to the podium. I walked down the centre aisle, past Linda Pryor, past Jean Stokes, past Dorothy Webb and her husband, past the pew where my grandmother used to sit every Sunday for 50 years, past my mother's aisle. She did not look up. I reached the podium, set down a sealed envelope I'd brought with me, and spoke for 5 minutes. My name is Daniel Mercer. 4 years ago, my mother stood in this community and told people I'd stolen from my dying grandmother. Most of you believed her. You did not ask me for my side. You did not ask for proof. You believed because she had been here 30 years and I was just a 27-year-old with no money for lawyers and no credibility to spend. I did not steal anything. My father forged my grandmother's will. He paid an attorney $8,000 to make it stick. He prepared fake financial documents to threaten me when I found the truth. My mother knew every part of it. She has known since before my grandmother was in the ground. I am not here to ask for your apologies. Your apologies are not the point. The point is this. My grandmother wrote me a letter 3 weeks before she died. She knew what was coming. She had prepared for it 4 years in advance. She was smarter than all of it put together, and she asked me to make sure the truth was told somewhere she loved. She loved this church, so I am telling the truth here. I picked up the sealed envelope and handed it to Reverend Douglas. This is the last letter my grandmother wrote. Reverend Douglas has agreed to read it because you all claim to know her. You should know what she actually thought. Reverend Douglas opened the envelope. 6 pages. Yellow legal pad, blue ink. He read every word beginning to end. The room was completely silent the entire time. When he finished, the final paragraph hung in the air of that fellowship hall like it had been written on the walls. Daniel, I am writing this on January 7th, 2023. I am tired now. I am ready to go. But I want you to know something before I do. I have watched you for 27 years. I have watched you in the moments nobody else noticed. The way you wiped my counter after dinner without being asked. The way you held my hand during the hard appointments and did not look away. The way you drove home at midnight and still showed up Saturday morning. You did all of that for nothing but love. That is rarer than any amount of money I could have left you. Don't let them make you small, Daniel. You never were small. You just forgot for a little while. Go remind them who you are, and make them remember my name by never forgetting yours. Linda Pryor stood up first. I told 14 people in this town that Daniel had stolen from his grandmother, she said, her voice shaking. I never once asked for proof. I am sorry, Daniel. Jean Stokes stood. Then Helen Crawford. Then Tom and Martha Webb. Then Dorothy Miller. 8 people total over the next 5 minutes. Each one with a name and a number. Each one with a specific thing they had said or shared, or passed along without questioning. Reverend Douglas looked toward the 3rd row. Toward my mother. She stood slowly. Did not walk to the podium. Just stood in her row and looked down the aisle at me from across the room. I was wrong, she said. 2 words. She said them like they cost her everything she had left. Then she walked out. The side door closed quietly behind her. I watched her go. I felt nothing dramatic. No surge of triumph. No collapse of grief. Just a specific quiet I recognised from years of late-night drives back from Caldwell Road after long Saturdays. The quiet of something being finished. That evening I drove to Caldwell Road one last time. The house had been sold as part of the estate resolution. A young family lived there now. A woman was sitting on the front porch with a baby on her hip, watching the late afternoon light come through the trees. I parked at the curb, sat for a few minutes. The wind chimes were gone from the porch. Someone had taken them down when the house changed hands. But the vegetable garden in the back was still visible over the fence line. Someone had kept it going. The beds were turned and planted. Neat rows of something green just starting to come up. I didn't get out of the car. I just looked at it for a while. Then I drove back to Memphis. 2 years have passed since that day. I am 31 now, senior special agent. I lead a team in the Elder Financial Exploitation Unit at the Memphis field office. In the last 2 years, our unit has resolved 41 cases across 4 states. 67 families have recovered what was taken from them. My office has 3 things on the wall. My grandmother's photo, centre position behind my desk. A clipping from the Leaf Chronicle, March 3rd, 2026, the day the Holt story broke. And a handwritten note from a man named Carl Witherspoon, 79 years old, whose caregiver grandson contacted us in January of this year after a forged will cut him out of everything his grandmother had left him in Memphis. Carl's note says, "The truth took 4 years to matter, but it mattered because of you. Thank you for building something worth waiting for." I keep it on the left side of my desk where I can read it without turning my head. People ask me sometimes if I regret not fighting harder in January 2023, if I wish I'd found a way to hire lawyers and take my family to court right then, right there, before they had time to settle into their lie. I tell them no, because fighting them in Clarksville in 2023, on their terms, with their credibility stacked against my empty checking account and my family's 30 years of church attendance, I would have lost, and losing would have confirmed the story. The 27-year-old with the fabricated debts trying to steal a dead woman's house, but walking away quietly, building something in the dark, becoming the kind of person whose record speaks before he ever opens his mouth. That was the only move that worked. My grandmother knew that. She did not leave me money. She left me time. She gave me a key and a letter, and 4 years of showing up so that when the day came, there would be nothing left to argue about. The evidence would just be the evidence, and the truth would just be the truth. In the bottom drawer of my desk, I keep the original photocopied pages from Safe Deposit Box 214, the real will, her letter. I do not look at them often, but they are there, same place the truth was for 4 years, waiting quietly for the right moment to matter. My grandmother spent 3 years preparing for what my family would do. I spent 4 years becoming someone they could not dismiss. And now I spend every working day making sure that the families who do to other people what my family did to me face something they did not count on. Someone who knows exactly what they did and has the authority to prove it. That is my inheritance. All of it. And nobody forged that.